And for me, my question was, why did everything look small until it was suddenly unbearable? It's not because you had childhood trauma or that you're damaged or unhealed. It's because you're human. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Healing Library. I'm your co traveler. I'm just someone who's walked a little bit ahead of the path, and I kept some notes about my healing and books I had read in my diary so that I could share the maps I wish I had when I was going through it. Well, let me walk you through some of the reasons that occurred to me and may be occurring to you. For me, the first reason is because I did not see the signs early. In my diary, I once wrote, it's hard to see a storm when you're in the middle of it, when you're in the eye of it. When you grow up in environments that are shaped by dysfunction, whether it's the big T's, the ACEs, or the small T's like neglect, your brain learns to normalize dysfunction and discomfort. An analogy I once read about was imagine living in a home where the heat was always set at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. There is a question that almost every survivor of some kind of dysfunction asks at some point. Why did it take me so long to see the negative pattern? For most people in North America, that's a really high temperature, but if you grew up there, you're acclimatized to it. So when you run into a guy whose house is set at 90 degrees, oh, you think it's better than your home. Meanwhile, most families are set at 70 degrees. So you don't realize that it's not normal. Another thing is the shame of abuse. It causes this kind of brain fog or smoke bomb. It's the kind of brain fog that blinds you to the truth because you're so busy trying to fix your family, make things work, earn worthiness, that you don't see the truth of the dysfunction happening around you. We're trained to mask, to make it work, to adapt, to accommodate, to struggle, to hide. In West Africa, we were told that marriage is hard and it's tough and it builds your character. So you get used to experiencing difficulty in your marriage. And you don't see anything wrong with that because that's what they told you to expect. So many of the early flags get filed under, yeah, maybe he was stressed, or I don't want to cause drama, or maybe I misunderstood. Once every quarter, every couple of months, they seem like things that are easy to brush off and you don't clock it. It just seems like somebody's personality quirks, or maybe I did something to cause it. But the thing about trauma is it's not just those situations, it's the pattern. And usually patterns take time to reveal themselves. I realized that I did not pay attention until it was bad enough. I remember in the early days of waking up, I listened to this relationship YouTube woman who said, you're not going to listen to me. All this advice I'm giving you, you're going to say I'm old and I'm bitter and I'm angry. Just haven't suffered enough. When you have suffered enough, you will come back to my videos. And it was pretty much true. Melody Beattie, the author of Codependent No More, says that people who have learned to manage others' emotions often have a very, very high threshold for pain. So when we're going through stuff, we don't break early. We bend, we stretch, we accommodate, we rationalize. I call it becoming a pretzel because I remember folding myself and twisting and contorting until I couldn't do it anymore and my nervous system just collapsed. Another reason why we don't pay attention early enough is back to that gaslighting. We are taught by family, by society, by religion to over empathize with others. Maybe there was a problem. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I didn't understand them. There must have been something that caused it. They really did not mean that, right? Hoping that the good parts that I saw in my partner meant that the bad parts were special occasions or because he was stressed or it was it was this situation that could be controlled. And I was not accepting that those bad parts that showed up were really part of who they were. And it causes us to under empathize with ourselves and clock all of our faults and, oh, I'm always overanalyzing things and I'm always nervous and, oh, I'm always thinking about my childhood trauma. I also felt shame for wanting better or thinking that I wanted too much. We tend to throw these high maintenance labels out there. I remember people telling me I was picky and I was needy for wanting a guy who would respect my voice. And the final thing is that it wasn't all bad times. There were good times and they gave you something. Companionship, identity, community standing. For example, where I come from, if you are married, regardless of how awful your relationship is, you become somebody worthy in the community just for being married. And over time, those little incidents, a cruel joke here, isolating you a little bit, a jab there, tiny breaches of trust, each one seems too small to call out. You feel like you're being petty. But trauma is cumulative, and over time, it becomes too much. And your brain suddenly wakes up because it becomes impossible not to see it. So most people will not challenge or leave the relationship when it becomes bad. They leave when the breakdown is greater than the shame of confronting the truth. One big thing that caused this for me is I was in a bubble. You see, there's some systems that tend to be self isolating. I find it in cultures that have a communal family system, religious communities, patriarchal family structures. Many dysfunctions are trapped in this self reinforcing bubble. Sometimes the only families that can be around your dysfunctional ones are the ones that are operating in the same dysfunction. Because your good old friends, they will see the toxicity and argue, fight, and pretty much back away in disgust. So when you find yourself in this bubble, you see that everyone around you is going through the same thing, so it looks normal. And what I've seen in some very abusive situations where there is intentional isolation, emotional, social, or cultural, the partner will badmouth parents. They will claim that your girlfriends are jealous of how happy you are. Work is taking too much of your time. There is just this energy of making your world smaller and isolating you. So it becomes very hard to compare your reality to what is normal because there's no one around to compare it to. And a lot of these environments, especially the religious ones and sometimes the cultural ones, make it feel like complaining is betrayal. If you complain about how your parents treat you, you're being ungrateful. I know in some Christian circles, complaining about a husband or a wife, you're being chastised for being dishonoring. And focus on the positive parts about what they give you. And when you get that kind of feedback, it encourages you to stay quiet on things that are not sitting quite well with you until you talk to someone outside, until you see a therapist, or one I see a lot, until you go off to college and meet new people. Or maybe you brought it up casually at work, and then the looks of people outside that bubble makes you question what you think is really normal. You talk about things, and someone finally says, uh, you're not crazy. That's not normal. It feels like oxygen, like someone just cleared out your fog. It's like it gives you permission. Your brain needs witnesses to confirm that your story is true. When we see a similar situation happen to a loved one, suddenly that shakes the fog a little bit, especially in the cases of the ACEs of physical or sexual abuse, where you hear the stories of moms who got the courage to leave their abusive spouses because the abuse turned away from them and to one of their children. I mean, we're taught to under empathize with ourselves. We accept bad behavior. We have a strong tolerance for it. But the minute that you see that happening to your child or your sibling, it's like something snaps. You think, no, they're innocent. They don't deserve this. Then something inside you says, then maybe I didn't deserve it either. So many times, compassion for others becomes the doorway for compassion to yourself. Now, join me for part two when I talk about what helped me when I was still in the hurtful relationship and what helped me after leaving. But I want to leave you with this. It's not easy. Shame thrives in secrecy and silence. We have been taught to be quiet and not to bring it up because it feels like we're failing or betraying our family or not being patient or just not being good people. But that feeling may also be a sign that we're breaking free and changing a dysfunctional pattern. So if you're watching this and you're realizing, oh, that's me, you're not stupid, you're not dramatic, you're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're surely not damaged. You're loyal. The shame was just too loud, your isolation was real, and now you're finally getting clarity. So thank you for letting me be your co traveler today. And remember that your healing is your inheritance, and your story is part of somebody else's library. If this helped you, share it with someone who might need language for what they're living through. And I will see you in part two.